This presentation includes forward-looking statements that are subject to risks and uncertainties. Actual results may differ materially as a result of various risk factors, including those described in the 10-Ks, 10-Qs, and 8-Ks VMware files with the SEC.
Our team is more important than ever. Every decision IT makes is directly connected to the top line or the bottom line.
We've thousands of employees using 2, 3, even 4 devices, all their own. We've got to try and manage all those or they sit out there unsecured.
We've got big investments in hardware and software, years of customization. Moving that to the cloud just doesn't seem possible.
Our execs and employees are demanding flexibility, access to new mobile apps, and features we're never going to be able to provide behind our firewall.
How would I describe things today? How about overwhelmed by demands, by devices, by pretty much everything?
Our workloads are increasing by 20% every year. Our IT budget is flat. You do the math.
We've pushed it about as hard and stretched things about as far as we can.
Our IT systems weren't designed for a mobile world, but we're in a mobile world, so it's pretty much adapt or die.
I mean, how are we supposed to keep the lights on in our data center and deliver all this other stuff? You tell me, how do we do that?
It's time to defy convention. Time to unleash next-generation infrastructure. Time to expand the impact of virtualization, embrace public cloud, and deliver mobility securely. Time to approach the entire data center as one virtualized automated machine. It's not a revolution, it's a radical evolution toward simplicity. And it's here today. The foundation for this radical evolution is the software-defined data center. This next-generation architecture abstracts hardware into software, pools computing, networking, storage, and security resources, and automates management for every aspect of data center operations. By expanding virtualization to the entire data center, IT runs efficiently, reacts quickly, and delivers, with agility, the innovation to drive business forward. Hybrid cloud solutions extend the benefits of the software-defined data center from behind the firewall to the public cloud. Existing applications and next-generation applications integrate smoothly. Stability, manageability, compliance, and security are maintained in a proven, familiar environment. Powerful mobility platforms further leverage software-defined infrastructure to connect an increasingly mobile workforce to the diverse, personalized applications that make people the most productive. Billions of people, millions of apps, from any desktop or any mobile device, at any time, over any network. Defying convention means revolutionizing both the infrastructure and the workplace. From the software-defined data center, to hybrid cloud computing, to seamless mobility, VMware offers the only end-to-end infrastructure purpose-built for the future and for today. It's visionary, it's battle-tested, it's what business needs, and it's yours for the taking. Defy convention.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Robin Matlock.
Welcome to VMworld 2013. Boy, what a crowd. We are so excited to have you here. And it's not just any VMworld. This is the 10th annual VMworld. And I want to start by simply saying thank you. We know your schedules are busy and intense. And for you to carve out a week out of your precious time to join us here in San Francisco is really an amazing commitment. And so first of all, just thank you. I also want to thank our sponsors. You know, without these great companies, we could simply not put on an event of this magnitude and scale. I encourage all of you, go into the Solutions Exchange, go visit these companies. They will all be debuting wonderful new technologies and offerings, things that are very relevant to your businesses. I'd also like to draw attention to the VMUG organization. This is the VMware User Group. VMUG is a customer-led, independent organization, and they're 80,000 members strong. If you are not already a member, please go down to their booth in the Solutions Exchange and participate. Sign up. Get involved in your local chapter. There is so much collaboration and best practice sharing that we do here at VMworld, and VMUG is a wonderful way to continue on that type of networking throughout the rest of the year. Now, there is also a very special group among us, the VMworld Alumni Elite. These VMworld faithfuls are really nothing shy of visionaries. They have attended every VMworld in the United States for the last 10 years. In fact, I'd like to invite a few of them up on stage with me to help take a look back into VMworld past and celebrate some of the great moments of the VMworlds previously. Gentlemen, would you mind joining me, please? Okay, in honor of 10 great years, let's start with number 10.
2011, the advent of the Hainspace, lush green habitat for the nerd.
I wouldn't call you guys nerds. I wouldn't do that. Okay, how about number 9?
2007, 3 words: party, Smash Mouth, Treasure Island.
Okay, that was 5 words, but okay, who's counting? All right, how about number 8?
2009, a chance to score the ultimate VMworld swag.
Oh, good deal. Okay, how about number 7?
2004, BattleBots, awesome carnage. Bring them back.
Okay, we'll take note on that one. How about number 6?
2009, our very own monster data center, definitely pre-cloud.
Oh, if you knew the backstories on that one. Okay, number 5.
2008, Danica Patrick and fast cars. My wife thought the cars were sexy.
Yeah, the cars. Got that. Right. Number 4.
2005, getting certified to do P2Vs at a rave. Buzzed on cocktails.
I'm not hearing a lot about technology up here. A lot about drinking. Okay, number 3.
2010, the premiere of the Thursday Innovation Session. 3 geniuses show us how smart we wish we were.
Very good. And number 2?
Number 2, 2006, Universal Studios. After hours, no kids and no lines. Who gets to do that?
Certainly not me. Okay, how about number 1?
Number 1, 2012, Pat Gelsinger turns VRAM into a 4-letter word.
Very good. Very good. Okay. And obviously, for 2013, you're going to have to go have your own experiences and choose the best memory for you. I look forward to hearing it in 2014. Gentlemen, thank you very much. I'd like to shift gears for just a moment and talk to you about some research that we do at VMware each year called our Customer Virtualization Journey. And in this research, we talk to you around the world, and we have some key learnings that have come from this research. First of all, we understand that regardless of where you live in the world, regardless of the size of your organization, your journey with virtualization typically follows 3 typical phases. The first is what we call IT production. And in this phase, you are often virtualizing workloads that are very much within your remit, things like test and dev, file and print. You are largely consolidating in this stage, and your benefit you receive is typically CapEx savings. Now, as you progress through your virtualization journey, you start to tackle different workloads, things like Oracle, SAP, a SQL Server. You tackle mission-critical applications, and your goal and objective in the second phase of this journey, or business production phase, is to drive up your quality of service, your reliability, and resiliency. And then the third stage of your journey is what we call IT as a service. And in this stage, you are layering on top of your virtual infrastructure new management and automation, and the result is a tremendous impact on your agility and responsiveness to your business. Now, if we look where we are as an industry, in 2012, you'll see that just under 40% of you were in that first phase of that journey. Well, how about 2013? In this stage, we see that many of you have moved from that early stage of virtualization into the second phase of this journey, where you are now virtualizing your mission-critical applications. Now, 1 in 5 of you have ventured into IT as a service where you are experiencing more automation. And the most interesting thing about that is that you tell us that those of you that make it to IT as a service are 3 times as productive as your counterparts who are in earlier stages of the journey. Now, it makes one ask the question, why? What is behind that productivity gain? I think I could argue the point that innovation is at the core of that productivity gain. In fact, if you take a moment to look back over the years, you see a history of innovation. In fact, the theme for VMworld this year is Defy Convention, but I would say that VMware has been defying convention for many, many years. Let's take the beginning, say ESX, the first bare metal hypervisor, severing the ties between hardware and operating systems. And really, one could argue, was the very beginning of the software-defined data center. Or how about vMotion? I know you all take vMotion for granted today. It's just a tool in your tool bag, you use it frequently. But you've got to think back to when that came to the market. Nobody for a minute could believe that you could move a workload from one server to another in production with 0 downtime. Or how about Distributed Resource Scheduler, or DRS? Now, for the first time, your virtual machine could take advantage of distributed resource pools. This changed fundamentally how you looked at your architecture and planned your data center. You know, there's 2 things that I find particularly fascinating about these innovations. First of all, ESX was a highly disruptive innovation, and it spawned an era of innovation, each building upon the next. And not just VMware innovation, but innovation across the entire ecosystem. You innovated. And the second thing that I find particularly interesting is all this goodness, it's just about compute. And although we are far from done with our journey in virtualizing all of the compute resources in our data centers, we also know that the software-defined data center is about extending virtualization beyond compute. Now, I've taken a fair bit of time to look back, celebrating 10 years of VMworld, innovation from the past. I bet you're kind of curious about the future, and maybe getting a little impatient to hear, well, what's next, Robin? Well, I have some very good news. I have just the man for the job. Please join me and give a warm welcome to VMware's Chief Executive Officer, Mr. Pat Gelsinger.
Good morning, VMworld. Okay, let's try this again. Let's try it again. Good morning, VMworld. Woo! Man, what an incredible audience. And if there was one place that you could possibly be for a group of people that are disruptive, that defy convention, this is the place to be. This is your show. thank you very much for joining us at VMworld 2013. Last year when I stood on this stage, I was just taking over the baton. I was just figuring out what this VMware thing was, and what a year it's been. Since then, the pace of innovation has picked up, and this period of disruption and change that we are in has only become greater. And let's look at that. You know, IDC has described these 3 eras, right, of IT. First, the mainframe era, where the killer app was the automated payroll, and you know, IT was this thing in a glass room that was carefully controlled access to. The second phase was the client-server era, or distributed computing, where we had millions of users and thousands of apps, and we ended up building these silos of IT, or as I like to call them, the data centers of today, or the museums of IT past. But the era that we're entering into is the mobile cloud era, where it's about billions of users. Literally every human on the planet is interacting with millions of applications. And it's all about IT as a service, where the self-service catalog, right, becomes the standard way that people are expecting to be able to achieve and receive their capabilities and their applications for the future. And IT must operate at higher and higher velocity, and simply put, the fastest will win. And as we think about this era that we're coming into, we see these 4 trends shaping everything that's going on in IT today: social, mobile, cloud, and big data. And these are affecting both consumer IT as well as business IT, and they're feeding on and touching each other. And everything that's happening in the world of IT today has one, or usually more than one, of these underway. More people, more apps, more data, placing huge demands on the infrastructure that you deliver. And these trends, this pressure on IT, right, it's requiring you to build the future, this cloud mobile era of infrastructure, but it also demands that you liberate resources from the client-server world, right? We need to find ways to reduce the cost of what we're doing today, but also build the infrastructure for what we're doing tomorrow. And virtualization, the technology that you are the leaders of, is uniquely positioned to help you do exactly that. Build the architecture for tomorrow, but also reduce the cost of the infrastructure that you have today. Gartner estimates that some 30% of IT's budgets today are going into new innovation. And the reason for that is apps are hard, they're heavy, right? Device management consumes too much, provisioning is too slow and hard, and all of these reasons make IT too slow and infrastructure too brittle and heavy. You, the VMware faithful, you do better than this. Right, on average, looking at the data that Robin was talking about, another slice of that says it's about 40% for our VMworld customers, and customers who are well virtualized. But our goal in this is that we move to 50%, where IT goes from being a ball and chain to becoming a powerful tool, where apps are self-service and get rolled out at the speed of business, where IT becomes an asset to accelerate business opportunities for the future. And this is the picture that we want to paint with you today. And not only is IT becoming more important, but it also becomes a lot more fun along the way. But ultimately, this infrastructure that we build, what is it for? It's all about applications, right? We don't build infrastructure for the fun of it. We're building it to enable applications for business. And enterprise apps are becoming like consumer apps, where they need to be built, agilely deployed, and one size doesn't fit all. One example, I asked our team to give me a cool enterprise app. And I know that might sound like an oxymoron, right? But a really cool enterprise app, and one that they came up with, right, was Cortagion. And what Cortagion does is they are doing DNA reporting for mobile devices for doctors. Right, which is pretty cool, so that actually on their mobile devices, they're actually able to look at DNA results of patients. But to do that, right, they have to go, and that app is available in the App Store, so you too can be a DNA reading doctor, so you can go up on the App Store today and look at that. But that app, right, needs to do a visual representation of the DNA maps, It's cloud accessible. It has to reach over secure infrastructure to HIPAA-compliant, cloud-oriented data centers to provide that DNA mapping results. And then doctors are able to, off of their mobile devices, be able to review DNA, and prescribe and give a specific diagnosis based on the DNA reading. Very cool, And this clearly demonstrates the kind of applications that we need to build for business for the future, combining the best of social, mobile, consumer, with compliant IT infrastructure. And as we look at this cloud mobile era, who will be building this next generation of IT? Who will be the leaders in establishing this infrastructure? And the simple answer is you. No one is even close to delivering the value that you have delivered for IT and business in the last decade. Nothing is even close to what virtualization and what you have delivered for the businesses, for the industries that you are participating in. So as these transformational leaders, we thought we'd have a little bit of fun. We came and we did a survey and we asked you, well, how do you describe yourself and your role in the industry? Okay, so this is what you said to us. So, no bias, This is just what you said to us. So the first one was masters of the universe. How many of you resonate to that, right? Yeah, masters of the universe, you out there? So, that's pretty bold. And I recall when I was a sysadmin, on the 386 design team, that's how I felt, masters of the universe, People would sort of line up at my door and I may choose to help them, maybe not, I was in charge. Gods. That's a little bit of self-confidence in your value, don't you think? No problem with self-esteem in this audience. Martyrs, the flip side of being gods. Who of you resonate with this one, huh? Explicatives were explicit by some of you. How about bullfighters? Complexity and cost, it loses in the end. Robin, did marketing have a little bit of spare time last night? What's going on here? Maybe ninjas. Virtualization is martial arts jujitsu. And marketing is still having too much fun. Maybe dragon slayers, Virtualization is my sword and armor. Having just shaved my beard this last year, I doubt I'm going to get my wife to agree to that one. I don't think so. But the phrase that came back clearest and most consistent from you was champions. Champions, we think, is a good description for what you do. Think about everything you've accomplished, but even more importantly, what you're going to do. The imperatives, that we see for you, the champions of the mobile cloud era. We see these three things. First, virtualization. Virtualization, by far the most powerful tool of the last decade of IT, and our job now is to extend it to the rest of the data center. And next up in that is networking. And of all the things that we're going to talk about today, I believe networking is the most important for our discussion that we're going to have in the course of our time together at VMworld 13. Second, management. And IT management has to give way to automation. And that automation enables us and IT to move at the velocity of business. And third, that the compatible hybrid cloud becomes ubiquitous. And these, we think, are the three imperatives for IT as we look forward to this next decade and this next generation of the mobile cloud era. And extending virtualization is what the software-defined data center is all about. Clearly, it starts with compute, the very foundation for the software-defined data center, the reason that we're all together in this room. And we're going to continue to extend it to all of applications. Second, storage. We need to transform storage and aligning it uniquely with the demands of applications. Third, network. Virtualizing the network for speed and efficiency, just like we did for the server. And finally, management. Management giving way to automation. And these are the 4 pillars of the software-defined data center. And in our discussion today, right, we're going to cover these 4 and present a case that the software-defined data center is your opportunity to transform the future again. But before we dive into these 4 legs, let's first hear from a customer and how they're embracing the entirety of the software-defined data center.
Columbia's in its 75th year of operations as the global leader in apparel, sportswear, and footwear that allows you to explore the outdoors. One of the big wins that Columbia's had was truly being able to virtualize our entire SAP platform, the crown jewels of our company. With Columbia's software-defined data center running on VMware technologies, it's allowed us to really change the way that IT interacts with the business. The ways we used to do things might have taken us realistically 6, 8, 12 weeks to deliver infrastructure, where today it's measured in hours and at the worst case days. The next step for us and the next part of our virtualization journey and really our software-defined data center journey really comes down to the fact that we're trying to remove the physical walls of our data center so that we can truly get into this worldwide cloud-based architecture.
Software-defined data center is enabling transparency between the business and IT by allowing that orchestration, automation, provisioning. It allows us to migrate workloads between data centers, intra-data center, and eventually up into, hopefully, the hybrid cloud service.
And we chose to virtualize 100% our SAP architecture on top of VMware technology. And what it's allowed us to do is scale with the business. What you want me and my teams to do is to be able to enable those finance teams and those marketing teams and those designers to bring value to the company as fast as they possibly can. And all of a sudden, IT becomes a valuable partner to the business. We're not just a cost center. We're not just spending money. We're not the people you call when something breaks. We're the people that make you better. And that's what really gets me excited as I look forward in the future.
To our friends at Columbia, yes, please. Of course, I just love those guys. They're such great customers, great partners. And they're also from the great Northwest, where we have our second home or first home, whichever one it is, right, up there. So I like going home there because I can do customer visits while I go see our other house. So this is just great. The great Northwest, Columbia Sportswear, a great customer and partner. So let's get started with the software-defined data center and first look at compute. And we say expand virtual compute to all applications. And I want to emphasize all. And we see virtualization as this foundational technology for compute, but we're not done yet. And some have said, oh, we're reaching saturation, and how far can you go? Maybe 70%? No, maybe 80%. And our answer to that is 100%. We're not done until every app, every mission-critical app, every database, every big data application, every physical server becomes replaced by a virtual infrastructure. That is our passion. And we're going to continue to drive compute virtualization until it's 100% virtualized for the data center. It is my pleasure today to announce the general availability of vSphere 5.5 and vCloud Suite 5.5, right? The next in our generation, right, of continuous improvements and refinements and delivering the leading technology in the area of compute virtualization. And that's what vSphere 5.5 is all about. But increasingly, you, our customers, aren't just taking the compute piece, but are taking it as part of the complete vCloud Suite, right, and taking that full set of capabilities as the preferred way to deploy the VMware technology in the future. So with today's announcement of vSphere 5 and vCloud Suite 5, so what's new? And simply put, right, you could call 5.5 2x. Supports 2x the number of cores, 2x the number of VMs, 2x the number of virtual CPUs. And of course, we sort of goofed on the maximum disk size. We didn't do 2x, we did 32x, from 2 terabytes to 64 terabytes for the maximum disk size. Is that good? Yeah. So simply 2x. And if we take that 2x and combine it with some capabilities I'll talk about later, like the flash cache, 2x performance on mission-critical applications. And 2x, that's a big deal. right? For large, and of course, mileage varies. But mission-critical applications are some of the key areas for us to keep moving forward with. Today, over half of you are running Oracle and VMware. Today, 3/4 of you are running mission-critical Microsoft on VMware. Today, over half of you are running mission-critical SAP on VMware. And with enhancements like 5.5, we're going to keep progressing till those are 100%. We're also expanding capabilities like HA. One of our key features, high availability, we're now expanding for app-aware high availability, so monitoring not just of the apps, but the components of the application to secure the overall solution's high availability. Also, big data extensions, making it simple for full Hadoop deployments in a multi-tenant way, so we can scale up and scale down the Hadoop clusters and be able to share those clusters with other resources and applications as well. Physical Hadoop, a thing of the past. Hadoop, a virtual workload running on top of VMware. And the simple summary of 5.5 is apps love vSphere. And we're going to continue to work to do more and more capabilities for applications running on vSphere. Apps love vSphere. But it's also not just about today's apps, it's also about building the infrastructure for tomorrow's applications as well. And today we're announcing Cloud Foundry on vSphere and our vCloud hybrid service. And Cloud Foundry, the leading platform as a service environment, a rich and growing ecosystem of partners and technology, a powerful environment for next generation application development and deployment, and with today's announcements, both on-premise as well as off-premise environments, and the seamless ability to move across those two for faster time to market, but also rock-solid deployment on the vSphere environment. Today, early access program is available now. You can visit the Pivotal team at their booth and general availability in Q4 of this year. VMware, as the original open source contributor for Cloud Foundry, was, is, and always will be committed to the Cloud Foundry environment and to being a leading partner in this world. And the result is, and even more apps love vSphere. And with this, we're excited because we just keep innovating in the thing that you've come to expect from us, the core compute virtualization capabilities, and continuing that cadence of groundbreaking innovations with high quality and increasing performance and capabilities. But applications need data. And what do you do with data? You need to store it somewhere. And thus, the next leg of our software-defined data center journey is storage. And storage is complex, and it's hard to get right, and it's mission critical, right? You lose a packet, you retry it, a server goes down, you HA and restart it. But storage, you got to get it right. And if there's one thing that my 3 years at EMC has taught me, is that storage is complex. And it's this pain point for environments. And we see that complexity increasing, where traditional application requirements, but also a broader set of next generation application requirements, that new apps and new requirements come with those. And virtualization is even partly to blame, right? Because as we hide storage I/O patterns, we even create the I/O blender problem, changing the characteristics of the storage environment itself. So we even help to add to some of the challenges with it. But storage itself is becoming more complicated. We have traditional arrays migrating to hybrid arrays. We have emerging all SSD arrays and server-side flash, and the continuing evolution of drives now into flash and solid-state devices, new file block and now object requirements, and the virtualization of data services. All of these creates even more challenges, and clearly one size does not fit them all. VMware has had a long history, and we've worked closely with many, many of you in the industry, because virtualization is the right point in the stack to enable storage innovation. And over the years, we've worked closely with you for many key innovations, and things like VAI and VASA and storage vMotion and storage DRS. And we continue that innovation, and we continue that investment. And today, the next leg in that journey as we move to software-defined storage. So what is software-defined storage? And let's try to create a clear taxonomy for what it is that we're talking about as we come to this discussion. And we see three elements as that key taxonomy for software-defined storage. First, a policy-driven control plane, where literally on a per VM basis, you can set policy for capacity, for performance, and availability requirements, and those policies are then operated upon by the rest of the virtualized infrastructure. Secondly, the virtualization of the data plane that allows us to abstract and pool the heterogeneous capabilities of the underlying storage infrastructure and advertises those capabilities to that software-driven control plane. Third, the virtualization of application-centric data services. And we see that many in the ecosystem, that these data services haven't had a place to be other than tightly bound to the hardware arrays. And now we're working to enable a rich set of virtualized data services. Those three components taken together are what we believe is the architecture of software-defined storage: policy-driven control plane, a virtual data plane, and application-centric virtual data services. Today, we're also very happy to make a major announcement, our second major announcement of today, the virtual SAN. And with this, we're delivering an environment that extends the hypervisor to pool, compute, and storage using the local storage and flash as a new converged infrastructure data storage tier. And this includes tight policy integration with the virtualization layer. Of course, it needs to be resilient. It's high performance. It takes advantage of local storage and local read-write caching in the VM to set a new point on the price performance curve for storage. And specifically for use cases like VDI and branch offices, tier 3 storage, areas that we see vSAN coming into the marketplace with great interest from our customers. Today, we're announcing that vSAN is in general public beta. And with this, right, we'll have general availability with the first update release of vSphere in the first half of 2014. We've had great response from our industry partners. You can hear from a number of those here at the show who've been using this in the private beta, customers who have found great success with vSAN technology. But we continue to work with the storage industry to extend those policy-driven virtual control plane mechanisms to the external drives as well. And VMworld brings that same efficiency and that same agility to external storage. And VMware remains fully and deeply committed to delivering on this key technology initiative. We're also announcing today vSphere Flash Read Cache, a new capability to do read caching of the I/O data stream and using server flash for hypervisor-based read caching, and allows for vMotion consistent storage caching. And finally, Versto, right? And with Versto, software that improves, right, I/O conditioning and data layout for, right, the external storage array, and also delivers high performance and efficient VM-centric snapshots and cloning capabilities. These four taken together represent the software-defined storage technologies that we're announcing today as part of VMworld 2013. But storage is an industry effort. And we've had a long history of working with the ecosystem, and we're going to continue to work deeply with the ecosystem as we drive this software-defined storage vision, extending that to working closely with the server suppliers as they embrace and enable vSAN in their platforms. Also continuing to work with our storage partners in areas like VMworld. And finally, with the entire industry as we work to enable this virtualization of data services. And we encourage all of you in the storage industry to look at and enabling a new class of data services for the future. Software-defined storage, a key leg of the overall software-defined data center vision. So with compute, with storage, now we'd like to take a look at networking. And in my view, the most important topic that we're going to discuss today. And if we think about what we did right, with virtualization, we created this agility, we freed the application from the underlying compute infrastructure. And with that, it's been flexible and rapid to deploy and easy to provision. But increasingly, those VMs are bound to, and the barrier to flexibility is becoming the network. While we can spin up a VM in seconds, the L4 and L2 to L7 configurations can take weeks or months in response, and thus, while many aspects are fully agile, we're bound to many aspects of the physical infrastructure. Today, that changes. Today, with network virtualization, we're moving to the world where the network is just like the compute, where we're able to spin up network services just like we could spin up VM services, an operational model just like the virtual machine, programmatic, driven by software, and automated. Network virtualization and SDN, the next step to the software-defined data center. And with that, today, it is my pleasure to announce NSX. VMware NSX. What ESX was for server virtualization, NSX is for network virtualization. The ability to support any app, any cloud management environment, any hypervisor, any physical infrastructure, right, and do that through this unifying layer, right, of network virtualization called NSX. NSX is the integration of the organic work that VMware was doing, vCNS, and combining that with the work that Nicira was doing and bringing those two platforms together into a single offering, NSX. And today, it's a pleasure to announce that with tremendous support from you, our VMworld partners and customers. And to do that, though, rather than me talking about it, it's my privilege to introduce one of the founders, one of the guys who has led to this revelation in software-defined networking. Please join me in welcoming to the stage Martin Casada. Martin Casada, a few of you might know him, but right, to the world of compute virtualization, many of them might not know you as well as I do at this point. Martin, can you just tell the VMworld audience a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Well, it's really good to be here. So my journey actually started as a PhD student at Stanford, where coincidentally I had the opportunity to work a little bit with Mendel Rosenblum, who was the founder of VMware. So the focus of my research was, how do you change the network architecture in a way so that you can get the properties in networks that you have in compute when it comes to things like operational simplicity, software evolvability, programmability. And so that work that I did with my advisor, Nick McCune, and Scott Shanker, who's a professor at Berkeley, ended up laying the foundation for what was later termed, I think in 2009, software-defined networking.
All right, so that whole open flow software-defined networking, we can credit or blame you for that.
There was a lot of people involved, but yeah, I was there early on, yeah.
Man, that's great. So Martin, what's your passion, and why VMware?
Yeah, so I mean, like you said, there's a lot of problems in networking as we try and push them into the cloud era. This is not what they were built for. And so, this is the opportunity to change that and to move it there. So my passion is really making networks cloud ready, and what better place to do it than the most important software infrastructure company on the planet.
Wow, so VMware is it. So Martin, I've been throwing engineers at you guys as fast as you possibly could, giving you computers as fast as I possibly could, and you've been working and slaving on this thing called NSX. I got to know, what is it? Tell us about it.
Sure. Okay, so fortunately, the concepts here are very simple and similar to ESX. So I'm just going to go ahead and step through an animation. So you have a data center, and in a data center, you have switches, which on the switches, of course, are attached servers. And in a virtualized data center, those servers will run ESX, and on top of those, a vSwitch. So what NSX does is, from within the position of the vSwitch, non-disruptively, in a way that you don't have to change the hardware, you don't have to reconfigure the hardware, it will create what you can think of as a network hypervisor. So now I'm going to start the analogy. So let's think about ESX. What is ESX? ESX is a software layer that sits on top of the hardware and sits there between the operating system and the hardware, and it exposes a virtual machine. And this becomes the focal point of operations. We've changed the concept of a server from hardware to software, and because it's software, we get all the operational benefits that we've come to learn and love for virtual machines. So NSX does the same thing for the network. So it'll expose virtual networks. So virtual networks look like physical networks. They support existing workloads. They'll support L2 and L3, L4 through 7 service chainings. So they look like physical networks, but they have the operational model of a VM. You can create them dynamically. You can configure them programmatically. You can snapshot them and rewind them and move them around. You can clone them. So this really is taking the virtualization operational model and bringing it to networking.
Wow, that's very cool. So just like little clusters of VMs in the networking domain.
That's right, yeah.
So Martin, so this is fantastic, but why now? What makes this the right period for this technology to emerge?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So, I mean, I actually think that network virtualization has come a lot further along than most people realize.
Okay.
So, do you remember VMworld 2010?
Of course, of course.
So I think that this is a graph from then.
Yeah, so this was great. This was, I'd say, a defining moment for this audience, if you recall this. It was in 2009, 2010, when more virtual machines existed running workloads than physical. Yeah. Right? And since then, you haven't slowed down a bit. And it was a profound moment for this audience where we became the majority.
Right. Yeah, that's right. That's exactly right. So this was a foundational moment in compute. But like I showed in a previous picture, you have vSwitches, and vSwitches have virtual ports. Okay. So with the explosion of virtual machines, you have an explosion of virtual ports. And so networking has experienced the same type of watershed moment. So if you take a look at this graph, it turns out in 2012, the number of virtual ports, these are ports connected to virtual machines, exceeded the number of physical ports globally. So in many ways, the network has already become virtualized.
Wow, this is incredible, right? So are you saying that the network is already largely virtualized?
Yeah, that's right. And it's not just an issue of pure technology trends, right? Like, for example, this audience is already heavily engaged with the virtual network. So for example, analysts will tell you 40% of virtual admins have experience configuring virtual switches.
Okay.
And when we talk to our 500,000 VMware customers, 77% will claim that they're already preparing for network virtualization.
Well, this is mind-blowing. So, so Martin, if I got this right, this is one of the largest network admin gatherings in history here?
Well, maybe that's one way to think about it. But instead of us talking about it, how about we bring some customers on stage and ask them?
Okay. Now, I don't want like, Casada Garage or something like that. You got big customers for us?
Yeah, sure. So how about eBay, GE, and Citi?
eBay, GE, and Citi, I think they count. Let's get them up here on stage.
Fantastic, great.
Thank you, man. Thank you so much, you guys, for joining us here. Martin, why don't you kick it off?
Sure. So, Sri, we've been working together for a long time, years now, and I really do consider eBay one of the most sophisticated network virtualization users on the planet. And so maybe you could talk to the audience a little bit about lessons learned and your plans for the future?
Absolutely. eBay Inc. is a diverse portfolio. With that comes the diverse needs of each business unit that we have. We do about $5,000 of commerce volume a second. And we all know that variations at scale causes a lot of complexity. Scale is not optional for us. That comes with traffic and volume. Variations we like to keep to a minimum. So we want to keep the physical infrastructure as consistent and as homogeneous as possible. What network virtualization offers us is three things. One is it simplifies our physical infrastructure. Second is it actually gives us a programmatic API to deal with the network. And third is it gives us agility, one, to existing business units, and number two, to the acquisitions that we are making. We are an early adopter. We have about 3,000 VMs on the Nisira solution that's already built out. It's taking dev, QA, and production workloads. And by the way, we didn't have to make any change to the physical infrastructure. And this has been awesome, and it's been a wonderful partnership with VMware.
Well, that's incredible, Sri. Hey, Greg, now, Citigroup, I mean, you guys are huge. right? And your infrastructure cannot fail, right? And you got regulated environments and all these challenges, right? You up here talking about the innovation of network virtualization. This is really profound. Tell us about it a little bit, and what are you looking for the network next?
Sure. I mean, Citi being a global financial services company, and our tagline is "Citi never sleeps," which really means IT never sleeps. And to deliver that scale of a service, requires a lot of investment in the data center infrastructure. And we've already virtualized over 50% of our server infrastructure, and that goes beyond even x86 infrastructure, includes our other system architectures. So the next logical step really in carrying the promise of virtualization throughout the data center is to tackle the network. And I'm a long-term networking guy, and take it from me, it's a tough area to kind of really go and think through, but you got to approach it from the perspective of the application workloads and the application resiliency and the businesses that use those applications or rely on them for mission-critical services. So really what we're trying to do with the network virtualization is create virtual overlays that allows different tenants in our multi-tenant global private cloud, which is highly secure, to have a higher level of security by putting them into logical virtual overlays that keep them somewhat isolated from one another, but at the same time allows them to gateway onto shared services. So in order to do that, you've got to have first, number one, a really good network architecture that's deterministic, low latency, and provides that end-to-end service, because the real win is when you get to the virtual storage. So the virtual network is there really to connect the virtualized applications running in the virtual compute, through the virtual overlays to the virtual storage, and the cost and economics and the reliability, production assurance, and SLAs that you need to get out of that end-to-end system.
Great. So Lance, you represent GE. This is a pretty bold move. I know that you guys have been very aggressive in virtualizing servers. So what problems have caused you to virtualize the network?
So the problem at the core is the competitive advantage for the business is increasingly being driven by IT and by technology. And this has placed a high demand for IT services, as well as for the delivery of those services in a much more rapid fashion. So as we've gotten further into this, we aggressively virtualized all of our application tiers, and that has orders of magnitude of performance and speed for the company. And as we've gotten further into automation, we've seen that the network itself is still in the physical world. It's still a bottleneck to that process. So we see network virtualization as the ability to apply the same technologies, right, the same automations to that process, and ultimately deliver the speed that the business is looking for.
Thank you, Lance. And maybe to 20,000 of your closest friends, colleagues, buddies here, if you had just one thing, right, that they need to know as they're entering into virtualization, maybe we could just finish by each one of the three of you just giving that one direction for our 20,000 members here. Maybe Lance and Greg, and then we'll finish up with you, Sri.
Sure. So, network virtualization, like cloud, can mean different things to different people, but it's certainly another tool in the tool chest of solving problems. So I'd say as you explore this technology, concentrate on the problem, focus on that, and keep a clear scope for what you're trying to accomplish, and you'll realize the benefits faster.
Greg?
Yeah, I think you have to take an end-to-end perspective on the problem. Just to go off and design the network in isolation, independent of the apps and the way the apps are using the network, is not going to get you there quickly. So you really have to understand your application workloads, how the applications are using storage. As Pat said, basically storage is very much an application-centric problem. And then design your physical network infrastructure, whether it's a spine leaf, layer 3 fabric, or some other architecture, to really allow you to button down the physical services and the quality of service you get out of the physical network, and then carefully plan the manageability of how you do that as virtual overlays, and then connect the virtual compute to the virtual network to the virtualized storage.
Okay. Sri?
I'd say that network virtualization is no longer a wait-and-see technology. It's now and here. Software-defined data centers are a reality. I think as a consumer group, we need to take the lessons we learned from compute virtualization and make sure that as an industry, we make progress on the network virtualization area.
Network virtualization now and here. Yep. Thank you, Sri. Thank you, Greg. Wow, what a profound list of customers. But even more profound is the partner ecosystem that we're working with. And as we go to general availability in Q4 with this technology, we're also delighted today to have an extraordinary amount of activity from the partner ecosystem. Some 20 partners are announcing their integrations with the VMware NSX technologies today. Over a dozen showcase demonstrations in the Solutions Exchange. We have some 30+ breakout sessions on NSX and network virtualization, hands-on labs with NSX. This is the coming out party for network virtualization, the next journey to the software-defined data center. This is the next key technology to deliver on SDDC, and it is a pleasure to have you join us and bring you forward this announcement with our customers and our ecosystem partners, network virtualization, NSX. So we've covered compute, storage, and networking. We cannot finish a discussion around software-defined data center without talking about management and delivering the control plane for the overall data center of the future, and that must transform as well. Traditional IT management, right, was this environment that was generally driven by specific rules, databases, and scripts, and it was complex, brittle, right, and very rigid. And that must be replaced as we move to the future with automation tools and environments. Given the number of VMs, the number of events, the complex interactions that occur, we simply need more powerful tools for the future. And this is what cloud management is all about. And simplifying cloud management, VMware, right, is rolling out a very broad set of capabilities. About 2 years ago, we began to pivot from just managing our own environment to managing heterogeneous environments. And what we saw is that we crossed over 50%. We were no longer managing just our stuff, but you were asking us to manage everything, because we were becoming the standard for how the data center was operating. So thus we expanded to become heterogeneous across physical infrastructure, across multiple virtual environments, across multiple clouds. Also, we stepped up dramatically the breadth of our offerings for a complete management suite. And we see it in these three areas: in provisioning, right, and making the customer our friend, moving to a self-service portal, right, environment to automate the provisioning. Second, operations. IT is our friend, making their life, giving them powerful tools that allow them to automate the operations of IT. And finally, the CFO as a friend, giving him the bill back, show back, the financial mechanisms to manage in that environment. A complete suite. We're also very happy last quarter to announce the vCenter Log Insight as we continue to expand our award-winning vCenter Operations Suite with new log management capabilities, combining big data, right, with log insights to further automate and drive improvements in the cloud management environments. As a result of what you've asked us to do, how we've responded, and the great success we had, IDC just said that we're the #1 in cloud management. We're the largest cloud management vendor, as well as the fastest growing cloud management vendor. You have made us #1, and we deeply appreciate your partnership, your feedback, and as a result, we're picking up our pace in this area. There has been some confusion about VMware's position around OpenStack, and I wanted to just take a brief moment to just talk about that and clarify our directions here. First, what is OpenStack? It is a framework for assembling clouds. The vast majority of you have chosen a complete integrated solution from VMware, right? That's enterprise focused and has the unique features and capabilities that enterprises need. However, some, particularly service providers, internet providers, would choose to build their own and want increased flexibility or choice in certain areas. And for that, VMware has chosen what we call our component strategy, where we will both manage, right, with the next release of the vCloud Automation Center, we will add support to manage workloads into OpenStack environments. Secondly, is at the networking and security layer. Part of the reason for the Nicira acquisition was their leadership position in OpenStack, and the original work in the Neutron work today, right, was one of the drivers for us. The leading technology in VMware, right, and the quantum work going to Neutron, right, has combined that, and we're bringing those together and continuing our support for that with NSX. And with the most recent release, the Grizzly release of OpenStack, adding support for the leading virtualization platform as well in the OpenStack environments. VMware aggressively supporting OpenStack, making open source contributions, driving API work, and delivering our best-of-breed components into those OpenStack environments. So we've explored different aspects of the software-defined data center. We've covered all 4 legs. But let's switch gears a bit and talk about this idea of the hybrid cloud. You know, there's a secular shift underway to take advantage of public cloud services. And hybrid, we pivot on that word as the seamless extension and interoperability of what you do on-premise with us and what we want to enable you to do off-premise with us as well. And whenever we talk about public cloud, we want to do it in this context of what do you need? And against that, this idea of a seamless hybrid cloud uniquely meeting the needs of business and enterprise IT. So what is the hybrid cloud? For us, it's any app, any place, no compromise. With that, common management. The same management tools I use on-premise, I can manage workloads off-premise. The same networking. The IP addresses never change. The network policies don't change. The security mechanisms don't change. Common support mechanisms. It is a seamless extension of my on-premise data center to the public cloud. And we believe this is your cloud. This is what you need for your businesses, your customers, your internal users. And as line of business and DevOps are exploring public cloud, this is a way for you to satisfy those needs without compromising SLAs, governance, regulatory requirements, delivering the VMware software, both public and private, and tying those uniquely together. Today, it's my pleasure to announce the general availability of the vCloud hybrid service. Right, and with the service today, it's now available, not in a limited way, but generally available to all of our customers and partners. The first and only true hybrid cloud service. But to help me talk about it, it's my pleasure to bring on stage Bill Fathers, the guy who leads this business area for us. Please join me in welcoming Bill Fathers.
Thank you very much. Pat, thank you, sir. Thank you very much indeed.
So, Bill, again, sort of like Martine, you're a little bit new to this audience, so tell them about yourself a bit.
Well, I have just over 10 years. I'm actually only 28 years old, but I actually have over 10 years experience delivering cloud-based infrastructure.
No, wait, 10 years cloud?
10 years,
I didn't think anybody even used the word cloud for 10 years.
Well, yeah, we were there at the early days of helping enterprises adopt shared infrastructure and cloud-based services. And most recently, I ran and was responsible for a company called Savis that have been at the forefront of a lot of this for many years.
Well, thank you. So, it is great for you to join VMware and, lead this area for us. But why VMware? With 10 years of experience, I mean, you're a hot commodity in this cloud's, frenzy. So why VMware?
Yeah. I think VMware is uniquely positioned to become a genuine global leader in providing public cloud services. The combination of VMware's technology stack, which I think you've articulated very well, our credibility, and our position with many of our clients who trust us deeply. And thirdly, our very rich ecosystem, which is exactly what you need to help bring something like this to market.
So a couple of months ago, you and I, announced the early access program for vCloud hybrid service. Tell the audience about how it's gone, okay?
Yep, it couldn't have gone better. We launched the early access program in June of this year. The program was oversubscribed. And we gained some incredible insight into how our clients are using the hybrid services exactly as you described. And our product release cycle is every 6 weeks, so we're able to pour a lot of that feedback straight into the product lifecycle.
Oh, that's very exciting. Oversubscribed. I like the sound of that. Maybe we're going to have to raise your quotas here and targets for the year. No, huh? So tell us about a few of the customers.
Great, I'd love to. Let's start with Harley-Davidson Dealer Systems. That was the noise of a motorcycle, just to be clear. Yeah. Harley-Davidson Dealer Systems have over 500 branches across North America, and we're looking at deploying a new mobile app that would draw upon a lot of the data already residing in their databases that are already very virtualized and residing on VMware technology. And as they were looking to develop and deploy this application, they found that experimenting with other public clouds, it was almost impossible to overcome the security or the other constraints and incompatibilities. They quickly used our cloud platform and found that exactly it lived up to the brand promise. So it's a great example.
A great hybrid use case. So what comes next? So we have some early access customers. Today we announced general availability. So tell us about the roadmap.
So I'd love to. And again, this roadmap is very much based on the feedback and guidance our clients have given us. The first service we're going to be launching later on in the fourth quarter is a service that's going to be of great appeal to clients already using our Site Recovery Manager product. And we're calling this a disaster recovery as a service offering. And it's a very logical extension for your existing use of our capabilities to now see vCloud Hybrid Service as a destination for disaster recovery.
So VCHS becomes the target for SRM.
Yep, exactly.
Wow, that's really cool. That makes a lot of sense.
It does, very cool. The second thing, building on your announcement earlier, so Cloud Foundry today, I think many of our clients are using that as an environment for developing both existing and next-gen applications, and we'll be extending that up into vCloud Hybrid Service as well, and we'll see that go into general availability in the fourth quarter.
Very cool.
Yep, and finally, desktop as a service, so making our View and Horizon products available as a SaaS-based offering on vCloud Hybrid Service. And again, that will seamlessly integrate with any desktop services you have on-premise, will extend into the vCloud Hybrid Service off-premise as well.
Again, very cool. So that's what, so tell us where.
Where. Okay, this is great, and we start getting maps up, which obviously is great news. So we're also announcing that in September, we're launching 2 new data centers, one here in Silicon Valley and one in Sterling, Virginia. And in October, a 4th location in the United States will go live in Dallas, Texas.
Okay.
But we're not stopping there. So we're also very excited to be announcing today the first of strategic partnerships where Savis, as a very credible global provider.
Savis, you got any connections there?
A few.
Okay.
A very large-scale enterprise offer of cloud services is going to embrace vCloud Hybrid Service as a technology going forward to offer cloud services to their clients. And together, we're delivering this capability out of at least 2 new locations in the United States, starting with Chicago and New York.
You know, they got a lot of data centers. I think you're holding back on me.
Back with a quota again.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. Bill, this is just tremendous.
Great,
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Great to have you on the team.
Thank you so much.
An exciting new capability for VMware customers to be able to get it in the seamless, compatible hybrid cloud way, the vCloud Hybrid Service. So Bill sort of introduced a little bit the end-user computing era. And as we began the speech, we talked about the mobile cloud era, where the infrastructure for client server must give way and evolve to become this mobile cloud infrastructure of the future. The cost and complexity of supporting today's client PCs, as well as supporting these emerging mobile devices. And this is what we're about, right, with our end-user computing initiative. And as you just heard Bill say, we're introducing desktop as a service, where many of you, right, are saying, you know, boy, this is a challenging infrastructure to go manage for the performance, the burst capabilities. Maybe I'll just get into the cloud, or maybe for some of my remote offices, it's easier to have it running in your data centers versus mine. And this is why we're quite excited to bring together the family, our end-user computing initiative with our vCloud Hybrid Service, and deliver desktop as a service, and expand the footprint, the capabilities of virtual desktop, and not just geographic, not just business models, but increasing to deliver it across PCs, as well as mobile devices, that desktop experience onto every device that your users are offering. This continues to expand the most comprehensive platform for end-user computing. Part of our overall strategy in this space is, right, you know, how we can continue to solve today's needs, but build the solutions for tomorrow. And this is what the VMware Horizon Suite is about. Desktop virtualization, management and multi-device support, user management for SaaS environments, and embracing and delivering, right, an environment for the mobile device area, View, Mirage, and Workspace. And this brings advantages for both users as well as for IT. And for users, it's this uncompromised experience that users of these technologies have. The same capabilities, the same user interfaces, the same App Store kind of appearance, right, on their mobile devices, right, but with separation and choice. And for IT, access, right, and control to provision, to deprovision, to maintain that corporate persona, to be able to secure and manage data and deliver it across public and private cloud environments. No compromise for users, no compromise for IT, delivering the best of both worlds. And this is what the end-user computing strategy, the High Horizon Suite, is all about. So let's recap the 3 initiatives that we've talked about today. The first, virtualization extends to all of IT. And I believe with the announcements that we've made, this articulation of our software-defined data center strategy, we have clearly given evidence that this is in fact true. And as Sri said, the time is now and here to begin to deploy key new technologies like network virtualization, to deliver on, right, software-defined storage, and to take that next step of the journey. We've clearly shown that we need a new management control plane for the entire data center, and that IT management needs to give way to automation. And finally, that the compatible hybrid cloud is a powerful new tool in your toolbox to deliver services for your businesses, your customers, and your users. And just as you've built the technology of today, these are the imperatives for you building the infrastructure of tomorrow. I'm standing in front of the most disruptive force in our industry today. In our over 10 years together, think about all the things that you have accomplished. You have rewired IT. You've done it with scalability, with incredible cost savings, with greater agility. This is what you have done, and you've done it without downtime. You've created the most resilient infrastructure in the history of computing. VMworld is about you. It's about the certifications, the hands-on labs, the training, the sessions, the show floor, the keynotes. This is your show. And while you've done incredible things, as we see today, we are just getting started. You are poised to disrupt, to transform, to rewire IT again and again and again. You are the most disruptive force in the industry. Thanks for being here. Have a great conference. You are champions.